Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on the Siley Stats YouTube channel. So right off the bat, you might notice something a little different, at least I hope it's different, um, that actually maybe you won't notice it, but I'm recording on a window instead of just, or I should say sharing a window instead of just sharing a tab. So hopefully what that means is that I can jump over to a different tab and you'll be able to see. I might have just disappeared on the thing. I don't think so, though. I think this will work. So hopefully I won't be disappearing when I go to check Duosmium in the middle of, when I'm recording stuff. But yeah, we have quite a bit to talk about today. This weekend, we had two major state competitions, PA and Ohio. And we also had Nebraska. Now, Nebraska's results aren't out yet, but I thought there was enough to talk about here in this video that I can talk about PA and Ohio today, and then all this other stuff, and then talk about Nebraska along with, let me move that so I can switch my things. Here we go. Along with Michigan, that is happening this weekend, or this coming weekend, I should say. Whoops, I want to do that. There we go. So yeah, Michigan's coming up this weekend. I figure I can talk about Nebraska along with Michigan. If Nebraska releases results, a lot of these smaller states haven't released the results, unfortunately. But on the topic of that, we do actually have two results from some smaller states. So these are South Carolina and Vermont. Two of, I believe, the least competitive states. Yeah, South Carolina and Vermont down here at 56th and 58th. So not the most competitive states, but they are states nonetheless that we will take a look at the results for. South Carolina, we already knew, by the way. We already knew the or I guess Vermont, we didn't know. We didn't know the state champion in Vermont. We did know the state champion in South Carolina. That's why it's way up here. We just didn't have the results. So now that we have the results, though, I might need to spoil Ohio and Pennsylvania because they're like down here too. Um, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. Maybe we'll talk about these a little later when we talk about PA and Ohio. You know what? Screw it. Let's just talk about these now. You'll see, but you'll see these results probably, but I'll explain. Here we go. I'll explain them later. So, South Carolina, Clinton, of course, we knew they were the state champion. Now, with full results, we know that they won by a pretty decent margin. That is a little more than 30 points, beating out Academy Med. What? Wait. Dyslexia really not helping me right now. Academic. Okay, I thought that said academy at first, but yeah, Academic Magnet and Lexington from South Carolina, not Lexington from Massachusetts, of course. So again, congratulations, Clinton, for being the South Carolina state champion with a fairly respectable score. And then also Vermont, we have results from. We have Burr and Burton Academy with a score of 60. And interestingly enough, they are a different state champion than last year. Last year, it was St. Johnsbury Academy that was the state champion. Of course, again, Vermont not doing very well nationally, but St. Johnsbury was the state champion last year. This year, it's Burr and Burton Academy. So congratulations, Burr and Burton, for being the new Vermont state champion. And another interesting thing about Vermont, you'll notice I included 4 teams. Typically, I only do this with states that have a lot of teams attending. So like Texas, I included 4, or that have a lot of competitive teams. So Texas, I included the 4 most competitive. Same with New York and North Carolina. Or sometimes like North Carolina, I included this because this, I guess actually, no, wait, that's New York. Whoopsies. Where's North Carolina? Here we go. Yeah, this, okay, I guess the score isn't super close. I don't know why I included this 4th team, honestly. But anyway, yeah, usually I only do that with states that are either very competitive, have a lot of competitive teams, or that the results were particularly close within the top 4. And Vermont didn't really fill either of those. So why did I include 4 teams? Well, because these are the only 4 teams that competed in the Vermont State Tournament, and I figured I might as well. I don't want to exclude Essex in case I have any viewers from there. I guess I included all the Vermont teams except Essex. So yeah, I figured I might as well just include the whole state tournament here. This is it. This is everyone who attended Vermont, the Vermont State Tournament. A little sad, I'm not gonna lie, but congratulations to Burr and Burton Academy nonetheless. All right. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about the next thing here. So, Madison West is going to nationals. We have some news out of Wisconsin here that Madison West will be going, and that is because a different team from a different a state decided not to send a team to nationals. We don't know what state that is. It's probably one I have here. I don't know. I can't even really speculate, honestly. There's quite a few fairly non-competitive states that sometimes don't send teams, or I shouldn't even say non-competitive, just schools that don't have as much money as a lot of other schools, so they can't afford to send teams to nationals. It's a little sad, but yeah, a state dropped their national team, and so Madison West will be going to nationals instead. From Wisconsin. And you can see I expect them to do fairly well. Oh, I need to add on here. There we go. If we look at their record, from what I remember, their record, not the best, but not terrible. Oh, did I misspell it? Is it 1D? It is 1D. Whoopsies. Let me fix that. There we go. Sorry, Madison West. All right. So, yeah, if we look at their record here, Jordan, again, not too great, losing to Thomas Jefferson, not the best there. Here we go. Northwest, though, beating unstacked Stevenson. Again, Stevenson, less competitive this year, but still a very competitive team nationally. So beating even them unstacked is fairly notable. Getting decently close to Marquette as well. This is still a decent gap, but not the biggest. And then, of course, New Trier. This is the premier tournament that they did not do very well in, so beating New Trier as well. Again, when New Trier super scored, they beat them by 10 points. Not the gap you'd expect New Trier to have between Madison West. But regardless, we move on. Marquette, again, beating one of Stevenson's teams. That's kind of it here. And then here, not a lot to talk about. Belleville. Yeah, not a whole lot. The reason, though, that I have them super high, maybe they shouldn't even be this high. Maybe they should be behind CV here. I don't know. That might be close. Is because of this score. And this score might not seem super great, and initially I didn't think it was great either. But that is until Sentient Tree explained to me, and as I repeated, or I guess passed on in the last video about the intricacies of this gap here. So realistically, if Madison West didn't get tiered in Mystery Architecture, they would have been only 1 point behind Marquette. So that is why I have these two teams so close, practically in a tie here with each other. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about there. Let's, I guess, talk about PA and Ohio before we talk about how I move teams around here. So I guess let's start with Ohio because I am probably going to have a little more to say about PA. So yeah, Solon takes this pretty handily. Obviously, Solon and Mason are their two teams. Congratulations, Solon and Mason. Yeah, easily the best teams in Ohio this year anyway. Last year, Centerville came decently close to beating Mason. That was a little interesting. And then, of course, Centerville taking third. But the gap here is very significant. Solon beat Mason by quite a large gap. And when combined with the rest of their record this year, that further enforces that I believe they are going to be the national champions this year. Um, Perhaps even bordering on their all-time best national performance, but probably not beating it, I'd say. Um, so yeah, that might be it for Ohio, honestly. Not a lot to say here, honestly, other than Solon did amazing, Mason did pretty good, Centerville took third. I mean, what did you expect, right? It's Ohio. Solon and Mason are going to do great. Centerville's going to do good, but not quite as good as Solon and Mason, right? And Solon, I guess the real story here is Solon beat Mason by such a large margin. I did look at Mason's score here. I considered moving them down a little, but I think they've done well enough in some invitationals here to keep them up at that high level there. For example, here, University of Michigan, Mason beat Solon's um, roster here. Again, Mason probably not unstacked, but even when you super score Solon, they still beat them. They still beat their super score. So I think Mason's done well enough in some recent invitationals to warrant this placing. And again, this isn't a bad performance either. Um, where is it? Here we go. This isn't a bad performance either. It's just Solon did a lot better. Um, yeah, I think that's it for Ohio, honestly. So again, congratulations, Solon and Mason. And we'll move on to Pennsylvania now. So, if somehow you were unaware, I am from Cumberland Valley. I'm a Cumberland Valley alumni. I love Pennsylvania Science Olympiad. And because of that, I attended the Pennsylvania Science Olympiad tournament. I didn't live stream it like I was originally hoping to. That didn't end up working out, of course, but I was there and I was keeping a live tally of the scores. So we'll see. We'll take a look at what I have here. If this doesn't work out how I'm hoping it will, then I'll just probably have to re-record this video or just cut this out. But yeah, hopefully this works. So yeah, this is my live tally of the scores. And Pennsylvania did a little strangely because I guess they didn't have certain events graded on time. So they kind of jumped around. Like they started with air trajectory and then went to like detector building, I think. Or no, I think they did anatomy, then detector. Then I think they did disease DP, and then they skipped eco and went to XD. Like they skipped events that they didn't have graded. Um, and also, I gave teams that didn't medal 11th. So yeah. So and also apparently Harriton medaled in air trajectory, uh, which I didn't catch for some reason. This was like the first event they announced at the award ceremony, and somehow I didn't catch that Harriton took fifth, I believe, in air trajectory. So sorry, Harriton, I missed that. But yeah, if we look here at the predicted scores, this ended up panning out fairly well, honestly. Cumberland Valley here, Harriton, of course, took first, and Cumberland Valley took second, with Lower Merion taking third. That's what this predicted. However, going into the last event, which was wind power, going into wind power, these scores were literally tied. Again, accounting for the fact that I screwed up Harriton's score. If you ignore that, these scores were literally tied going into wind power. So it was, I mean, it was tense to say the least. And then of course, wind power happened. Lower Merion did not medal in wind power, so that set them back quite a bit. CV not doing quite as well in this event as anticipated, and Harriton taking first. That really put them over the edge there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of improvement for all of these teams, honestly. Cumberland Valley, the only event they didn't medal in was Whitty. And then Harriton and Lower Merion, well, I guess Harriton, accounting for the fact that I messed up air trajectory, Harriton only had 2 events that they did not medal in, while Lower Merion had 3. So, and Harriton, of course, had way more first places than Cumberland Valley. And you can see why, after the awards were over, I could be forgiven for thinking that the results would be closer than this. Because, like I said, I literally had all 3 of these teams tied going into the last event. So I was thinking that, you know, Harriton might have just beaten CV on a tiebreaker, or CV might have beaten Well, no, CV actually, that was the scary part because, of course, I was rooting for CV. Um, but yeah, that was the scary part, was that if CV got into a tiebreaker with any of these two teams, they would have lost because they didn't take a lot of firsts. They only had two, I believe, two first places, which is the lowest number of first places Cumberland Valley has had in the past 3 years at states. So, but yeah, they managed to clench it out because of their lack of bombs. Again, the only event that they didn't medal in was Whitty, which admittedly they didn't do that great in. But again, Lower Marion, I believe it was it Air Trajectory that they bombed? Um, Wind Power. Sorry, it was Wind Power. Air Trajectory, I think they got 15th or something. But Lower Marion bombed Wind Power, and that really was the nail in the coffin for them. So, congratulations, Harriton, and of course Cumberland Valley for being for earning a trip to nationals. There we go. And of course, congratulations, Harriton, for being the state champion. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to say about this. Yeah, so again, I thought that these scores would be a lot closer because I did not account for CV's bomb in Whitty and Lower Marion's bomb in Wind Power. So yeah, I believe that is it for this page. Anything I missed here? Nope, doesn't look like it. All right, so now let's go back over here and let's look at some placement changes. So, Harriton, I've moved them up, and I've just done that because of the state competition. And let me explain why. So, Harriton, they did significantly worse at the state competition this year than last year. Last year, they did amazingly. This year, not so much. They still got first, of course, but they didn't do as good as they did last year. However, they did better than I expected. If you remember correctly, I actually had Cumberland Valley very slightly ahead of Harriton going into states. Yeah, I had Cumberland Valley ahead of Harriton by a very small margin going into states. Like I said, I wouldn't have going into states. I wouldn't have been surprised if they got into a tie, and that would decide who would get first at states. So I expected Harriton to do a little bit worse at states. They ended up doing better, so I've moved them up a little. I'm hesitant to put them ahead of the Illinois teams. Again, just because New Trier, they did very well at states. And Stevenson, while they haven't been doing as well this year, certainly not as well this year as they were last year, they still managed to be a very competitive team. Marquette, I've moved down, partially due to the addition of Madison West. So, again, if you ignore Madison West's tier in mystery architecture, they practically tie with Marquette at states. So I've moved them down to be right next to Madison West. I still expect Marquette to beat them at nationals, but yeah, I've moved them down because Madison West is, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but looking at their record, they're not a super competitive team. Like, they beat Liberal Arts and Science Academy here at Jordan. They beat Stevenson unstacked and New Trier unstacked. And I guess they beat Clark up there too. But I mean, other than states, there's really just not a super great showing for them at a tournament. Like, Marquette has a couple of really good tournament performances behind their back, and then states was just, they didn't do. I mean, they still did good at states. Don't get me wrong. This is a very good score. But yeah, Madison West. Being able to almost tie them at states. Again, if you ignore the tier and mystery architecture, Madison West being able to almost tie them at states is very significant. So I've moved them down a little, and I think these two I've moved up. I've put New Trier in the top 10. Again, that's just a consequence of Marquette moving down. And I've moved Acton Boxborough down as well. And that is because I looked at their state performance last year, and last year their state performance was 48. So I might have talked about this in another video, so I might sound hypocritical here. Um, saying, and I think I said something like, "Yeah, I know they only improved 2 points, but it's really significant because the score is so low." Or I might have said that for Iolani, or both. I don't know. I forget. But yeah, I've moved them down because this isn't too much better than their state performance last year. And last year, their state performance got them sixth. I still think they'll do better than that this year. So, but I'll put them in fourth for now. Um, and I believe that is it. Yeah, I've also just kind of like been expanding this list here down to 21st. Instead of just taking teams out of the top 20, I might as well just move them down because I'm gonna try and rank every team that's going to nationals. I'm not sure how well that's going to go because I don't have data for some of these. A lot of these, in fact, I don't have data for. So we'll see how that goes. And I mean, these teams, these states don't even have their results out yet. So I mean, it's literally just a shot in the dark as to where I put these. But yeah. So I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic day. Bye.